I am frothing at the mouth, would sell my firstborn child for this book. Hedonistic, spicy activities occurring. The shadow daddy of death. Plants with a taste for human flesh. And if that doesn't sound like the best thing you've ever heard in your life, I don't know what to tell you other than you're wrong. Hey, what's up? My name is Leah. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. So today is going to be a bookmas day 4 and we're going to be talking about all of my anticipated releases for 2025. I am so excited because there's so many good releases coming out in the new year and I have been researching some of them. I've been also looking into other people's anticipated releases videos as well as digging through the depths of Instagram and the internet to find the good shit for you. So you're welcome. So let's get into the list. So these are not in any particular order, but I am going to tell you the release date underneath the cover over here if you want to know that. But we have horror, we have romance, we have what else do we have?
This is a treasure hunt. This is a professional operation.
We got some fantasy, we've got some short story collections, and so without any further ado, let's get into the books. So the first one I want to talk to you about is called Our Winter Monster, and this one comes out January 28th, and this is about a couple, and they're driving their little car or whatever, and they are not getting along. They're having some disputes, and then they end up running into Frosty the Snowman's ugly stepbrother on the road, this fun little snowy gremlin right here. And I think it's a horror, like a monster horror kind of thing. I don't really know what this critter is. Is it a snow worm? Is it a ravenous snowman? It's hard to say, but I'm excited for that because I have been really wanting to read some more winter horror. I feel like I haven't read very much of it, and there's not that many that I've seen people talk about on booktube or bookstagram or anything, so I'm really excited about this. And then the next one we have is Overgrowth by Mira Grant. So this one comes out May 6th, and this one I'm excited for. I haven't read Mira Grant before, but this is a alien invasion horror, and we're following this girl Anastasia, and ever since she was a little kid, she's been telling everybody on Earth that she is an alien from another planet and that her parents are going to come to Earth to take her back to her home planet. And then, and nobody believes her, obviously. And then one day, the alien invasion starts, and she knows that it's her family coming to take her home. And it sounds really weird, and I'm excited. I haven't read that many alien books. And so I feel like this year, a lot of the 2025 releases I have on here have aliens, and I thought that was kind of cool. So this is one of those. Also, I don't know what's up with this creepy plant on the cover, but I'm here for it. And then the next one we have is Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang. So this one comes out April 29th, and this is about a woman who is seemingly being stalked by a serial killer. She is a crime scene cleaner, and so she cleans up nasty homicides and suicides and things of that nature. And at all of her crime scenes, she's been finding dead bats, and she's also seeing some weird shit around her house. She found bite marks on her coffee table. Hello. And she's been thinking about her sister and her sister's death. So years ago, her sister got murdered in front of her, and somebody pushed her sister in front of a train and killed her. And she saw the whole thing, and all the killer said to her was he called her a bat eater, or she. I don't know if she could tell if it was a guy or a girl or anything, but anyways, they called her a bat eater and then ran off after killing her sister. And now she thinks that maybe the killer is coming for her, and it sounds really good and creepy. And the next one I have is also a horror. It's called The Samurai Ate the Rich. This is a YA horror, and this one comes out April 22nd. It's following this girl who has zombie powers, and one day she decides to go full zombie and quite literally cannibal style eat the rich. And that's all I know. This cover, again, stunning with the pearls and the fork and blood. Ooh, love to see it. The next one we have is called When Devils Sing, and this one comes out June 5th. I don't remember anything about this book, I'm going to be so for real, but it's horror. Hold on, let me look it up on Goodreads. What in the nut? I added this to my list, and I know I'm excited, but I can't remember anything about it. Hold up. Alright, we've got the synopsis, folks. Now I understand why I added this. This is a YA horror and it's a Southern Gothic. Whew. I love Southern Gothic. That's such a buzzword for me. I read Summer Suns like a couple years ago, and that is one of my favorite Southern Gothics, and it was so good and I ate it up. So this one is, it says an atmospheric horror novel following 4 teens in rural Georgia who are investigating a local teen's disappearance, and what they discover festering at the core of their small town is far more sinister and ancient than they could have ever imagined for fans of She is a Haunting, Mexican Gothic, and Midsummer. Also, I loved Mexican Gothic too. So that's all I have to say about that. That's all they have on Goodreads. Very little info. Also, it's chunky. It's like 400 pages. But it looks really, really good to me. And then next, we have another horror. It's called The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas. So here's the thing. Isabel Cañas. I have a love-hate relationship with her. I loved her first book. Read her second book, the one about the vampires, and that one was kind of mid for me. The romance in there was really good, but the horror part was like not really there. So I'm interested to see how I feel about this third book from her. I feel like this might be like a make or break this author kind of book for me, but it's following this woman who is possessed, and that's all I want to know. That's all I'm going to tell you. Possession of Alba Diaz comes out August 19th. Okay. Next we have Victorian Psycho, which comes out February 4th. And this is about a woman, I think she's a governess, and she's taking care of these kids, and she is weird. And she does like some creepy shit while she's taking care of the kids. And I think we're seeing like from her POV, and she has like a scary mind to be inside of. And that's all I really want to know. I've been hearing a lot of people say that they're excited for this one. And there's a part of me that thinks that might be like a fun one to read for a book club. So if you think that's a good idea, let me know. And then next we have The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling. This one comes out May 20th. Caitlin Starling is an author that I've been wanting to read for a really long time. And this one I was interested in because I think it is following like nuns. Let me look it up really fast. Okay, so The Starving Saints is a medieval horror, and that's what originally intrigued me about this. This synopsis is really interesting. So we're following these characters who are in this castle, and the castle's been under siege for 6 months. The food's running low, there's no sign of rescue, and then magically the sick people become healed, the castle stores are replenished, and these divine figures of the Constant Lady and her saints have arrived at the castle, despite the fact that the castle is barricaded, which is sus. And then all of a sudden the entire castle is under the sway of their like saviors, and they're partaking in like feasts, and there's like some creepy weird shit going on. And there's only 3 women in this castle who can still kind of see their situation for what it is. And it says that the castle descends into bacchanalian madness, and the people there completely forget that there's a massed army beyond the walls, and there's a lot of like hedonistic, spicy activities occurring, it sounds like. And it sounds like the women are trying to like figure out what to do, but even they are not immune to the temptations of the castles, its new masters, or each other. And Goodreads says it's a horror fantasy historical fiction that's also queer, and it sounds really interesting to me. Also, there's like this weird thing on the cover where it looks like the lady's holding like a tray from a beehive with like honey in it and stuff. Anyways, very strange. It sounds like it's gonna be very like fever dream-esque. And then next we have The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. So I've never read Stephen Graham Jones. I've been very intimidated by him, but he wrote the like prelude or whatever in this horror anthology that I read recently called Never Whistle at Night, and it was so interesting just reading his writing, and I really liked the vibe of it. So I really want to try out his new novel. And all I know about this is it's got something to do with a buffalo and like a vampire hunter, I think. I'm going in so blind. I don't want to know anything about this book, but I am excited for it. I feel like I've heard mixed things from people on booktube about their opinions on Stephen Graham Jones's books in general, but I don't know. I'm really intrigued by him, and I want to give him a go. He's also an Indigenous writer, so I think the buffalo aspect has something to do with that, but I'm kind of interested to see how the vampire element is handled in this in particular, and that one comes out March 18th. And then next we have When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. I'm so excited for this. This is one of my top anticipated releases. So Nat Cassidy wrote Mary, and I read that in 2024 and loved it. And so I really want to read his new book. It comes out April 22nd. It's following a mom and a son, and I think that they're running from like an abusive husband-father situation, and they go to this like secluded cabin, and then a creepy wolf man starts like stalking them, and that's all I really know. And next up we have the romance category. So again, these are not like super in order. I kind of tried to group them by like horror and romance and whatever, but then I found more that like don't really fit neatly into a genre, so whatever. I'm just leaning into being a chaos gremlin. You're getting all of the books regardless. Anyway, the next one I have is called Deal with the Devil by Lizzie Strong. It comes out February 3rd, and this is a monster romance. So we're following this woman, and she and her sister are like walking down the sidewalk one day, whatever, they're like out partying, and they get like mugged by this group of human dudes.
These white men are dangerous.
And then this guy shows up and like saves the day, and he's a big purple demon daddy man, and turns out he is the owner of this gambling den, and our main character's brother-in-law has been going to the gambling den, and he's racked up this like crazy mad debt, and so he and her sister are like in really deep. And so basically our main character says, no, like, I don't want you to like mess with my sister, you can take me instead. And so the purple demon daddy says, okay, that sounds good to me. You have to spend 24 hours with me and do whatever I say, wink wink.
We take this shame to our graves.
And then I'll let you go and your sister's debt will be paid in full. And so they do, and they have like a fun, spicy little time. And then he decides, or like realizes that he's like actually kind of like into this girl and like kind of down bad for her. And turns out his enemies, which he has many of, find out that he is also down bad for her, and then they start coming after her. And so I think he has to like take her in and protect her. Ooh, I am really excited. Also love that we have a plus size heroine with blue hair on the cover. Obsessed with that. Lizzie Strong is an author I've read from before, and a lot of her like monster romance, fantasy romance books are all set in this same fantasy world, and so this is another one of those. I'm so stoked. And then next up we have The Deathless One by Emma Hamm. This one comes out August 5th, and it's another kind of monstery romance. We're following this girl who gets killed at the altar on her wedding day, and then she makes a deal with like the shadow daddy of death, and he brings her back to life. And so she's like this undead angry woman, and so she's coming back to her kingdom to take out the people who killed her, because she was the princess, and so she's trying to protect her people while also trying to take out the bad guys. And she sounds like she's very angry, and I love books about female rage, and I also really like monster romance, so I think I'm really gonna like this. And I've also been wanting to try out this author Emma Hamm for a while too, so I'm excited about that. And then next we have another romance, and it's by Kimberly Lemming. It's her new one. It's called I Got Abducted by Aliens and Now I'm Trapped in a Rom-Com. Comes out February 18th. And this one, I'm interested in. The cover sounds cool, looks cool. It's got a T-Rex and a lion on it, which interested in the dinosaur aspect. But basically this is the first book in a new series from her, so if you haven't read her like That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon or whatever series, you don't have to read this. They're like not connected. I think this is like something totally new, and I haven't even dipped my toe into that other series, but I am curious about trying her out because I've heard that her writing is like really funny and entertaining, and so I wanted to give this one a go since it's the beginning of a new series. And then the next one I have is Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. So this is book 4, I believe, in her cowboy romance series, and it comes out April 15th, and we're following two characters that we saw in the rest of the books, but I remember seeing them a lot in book 2 and being really interested in their romance. So I think it's a second chance romance between this couple that I think dated in like high school or something like that when they were younger, and then the woman in the relationship, Cam, she ended up having a one-night stand with another guy and got pregnant, and so now she has a baby from another guy. And during that time, this dude, I think his name is Dusty, I don't know for sure, don't quote me. Anyways, he's tattooed and rugged and hot. That's all you really need to know about him. But basically, he comes back after being gone for a while, and now she's got a kid, and she and the guy she had a one-night stand with are not together. Like, they were like friends, but they were in love. And so now she's, you know, shares custody, but she's like a single mom, and she's like doing her own thing, and then he rolls back into town. And so I'm really excited to see what happens with them, and like also find out why they broke up in the first place years ago. I think it's going to be really good. I think the tension is going to be like god tier. And then next we have the new Alea Hazelwood called Deep End, and this is a like sports romance, which is new for her, so I'm excited about that. Again, tattooed hot man. I think he's a swimmer, and this one comes out February 4th, and I think it's like a romance between the hot sporty swimmer guy and some girly pop. I don't really want to know anything going in. Sorry for these like vague ass synopses, but I really like Alea Hazelwood's writing. It's always like very fun. There's a lot of banter, and her books are like crack. Like once you start, you like can't stop, and you end up binge reading the whole thing. And I did that with Bride last year. I binge read the whole thing twice. So if that says anything, I never do that. So I'm excited to get to her new release. And then next up we have A Passion for Potions by Dahlia Davies. This is a cozy fantasy romance, and there's not much info about it like online, but it's going to be on Kindle Unlimited, and I think it might be a wide choose because there's like two monster-y looking guys on the cover. And I was also just really interested in reading a monster romance that has like potion making in it. I think that's really cool, especially if it has like the cozy fantasy vibes. I think it could really be something, and I haven't really heard anybody talk about it. So that's something for you. And then next we have Moth Eater. This one comes out January 21st, and I think this is a fantasy.
Lies! Lies and slander!
I don't really know a ton about it. Let me look really fast. Okay, so Moth Eater is actually a fantasy horror with queer rep, which sounds amazing. It says it's a nuanced queer fantasy set amid the Appalachian Mountains in Virginia, and it's about the last witch of the ridge who must choose sides in a clash between industry and nature.
You know what? I reject nature!
And I think that sounds really good. Also, the cover is absolutely stunning and gives me like dark cottagecore vibes, and I love that to death. Alright, so let's be totally real. There's so many books coming out in 2025 that sound amazing, and in order for us to get through this list without me yapping for 700 years, we're gonna have to go rapid fire. So buckle up. Okay. So the next one I have is Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. No cover yet. I think it's a new like dark academia fantasy, and I'm really excited about it. It comes out August 28th. I know very little. There's not much to know as of yet, but love R.F. Kuang, love the babble, and I'm excited to read anything else she writes. Next, The Maiden and Her Monster comes out September 9th. Let's see. The Maiden and Her Monster is a sapphic fantasy reimagining of the Jewish myth of the Golem for fans of Catherine Arden and Ava Reed. It's a fantasy, lesbian, horror, adult, queer, sci-fi fantasy, and we're following a young woman who's forced to venture into a cursed forest to capture the monster, hunting the girls of her village when she discovers a disgraced golem ready to confess, but only if she agrees to help fulfill an ancient promise first, a bargain that unravels a much more dangerous threat to her people and forces her to face growing feelings for the very cute creature she was taught to fear. Ooh, tea. Okay, that one sounds really good. Next, we have The Library at Helleborn. This is by Cassandra Kah, and it comes out July 22nd. Have not read Cassandra Kah before, but have wanted to for a really long time, and I think this one's about a magic library, which sounds really good. It's more fantasy, not so like spooky horror like a lot of her recent novellas. Next up we have The Bane Witch, comes out March 18th. This one is about a witchy woman who I believe uses like plants and mushrooms and stuff to poison men, which you know I love female rage. And this year seems to be the year of aliens and poison, so we love to see that. Next, we have A Treachery of Swans. It comes out July 29th, and I don't really know what this is about either. I don't remember, but it's a fantasy, and it's about... Oh, no, I do remember. I lied to you.
Lies! Lies and slander!
This one is a retelling of The Swan Lake Princess, which, if you saw my Barbie video, like, ages ago when the Barbie movie came out, I loved the Swan Lake Princess Barbie movie as a child. Like, was one of the only two movies I ever wanted to watch. And so this is a retelling of the Swan Lake Princess, and I've never read a book about that story, and I was really interested in that, and so I added it to the list. Next we have Silverborn by Jessica Townsend, comes out June 24th. This is book 4 in the Nevermore series, which is a middle grade fantasy that's absolutely amazing, one of my favorite series of all time. This book has been pushed back like multiple years in a row, and it was supposed to come out like 2 days before my wedding, and it got pushed back like a year, and so I am frothing at the mouth, would sell my firstborn child for this book. You think I'm kidding, but I'm kind of not. And I'm so excited about that. Also, it's got dragons. So excited, so stoked. Next book we have is The Coven Tendency by Zoe Hannah Makuta. Comes out April 1st. So this is the author who wrote this like steampunky kind of looking sapphic sci-fi that was YA. I think it was a duology. And I've heard so many people say that her writing is really, really good. And this is her new YA book, and it's a vampire fantasy. So I'm interested to give that a go. Next we have A Mouthful of Dust by Niveau. There's no cover for this. It's book, I want to say 5 or 6, I can't recall, in the Singing Hills Cycle novella series, and I'm really stoked about it. I believe it's about, let me see, there's like a really tiny synopsis that just came out. Okay, so it is book 6 in the series. So this book is about the cleric Chi and their bird companion Almost Brilliant, and they're going to a new town called Bolin, and they're trying to find out about these stories of this legendary famine that happened there, and they end up going to this sinister mansion where some of the royalty live, and they're finding out about these stories about what happened. And apparently when the famine came to call, some interesting things transpired, and Chi and Almost Brilliant are trying to learn what happened and like document the story of the famine before things go bad, because something is in the manor and the shadows there are growing hungrier. And that's all I really know. It's a novella, it's queer, it's fantasy, it's adult, it's really good. I love this series. It's one of my favorites of all time. I didn't love, was it book 4? But besides that, all the other ones have been really good. So I'm excited to get to this new one. And then next we have Hot Wax by Emma Rio. This is a new one from this author, and I believe it's another dark academia. So I feel like all the girlies are going to be frothing at the mouth for this. Also, we don't have an official cover for that either. This is a temporary one. Next we have Eat the Ones You Love, and this one comes out April 22nd. This one I think genuinely is going to be like one of my favorite books of 2025. We're following from the POV of like a man-eating plant at the grocery store, and that's all I really know. There's something about the synopsis of this that just feels like it's gonna like scratch a weird itch in my brain. Okay, we gotta go synopsis for this because this book is weird as hell. Okay, it says it's a twisted, tangled story about workplace love affairs and plants with a taste for human flesh. Also, side note, this cover really intrigued me because it's got like weird, creepy eyeballs on the cover too. And 2024 was the year of creepy eyeball books, and I read every single one of them, and they were all fabulous. So I'm convinced that if I read a book with eyeballs, I'm gonna love it.
Don't look at me with your judgmental, hollow eye holes.
Anyways, so it's about this woman who's going on a grocery store run, and she sees a sign that says help needed in a flower shop window, and she's like down on her luck. Her fiance and her have broken up. She lost her job. She moved in with her parents. Whatever. Shit's not good. And so she ends up taking this job. And then we end up getting a dual POV from an orchid that's growing out of sight in the heart of the mall. And the flower shop was inside the mall. And this orchid is like watching everybody really closely. And the orchid's name is Baby. And the beautiful florist belongs to him. And he's young and he's hungry. And he'll do just about anything to make sure he can keep growing big and strong. And it says nothing he eats, nobody he eats can satisfy him except the thing he most desires. Ooh, and I think the person he most desires is this girl who took this job at the florist. And he adores her and he wants to consume her and will stop at nothing to eat the ones he loves. It's a story about possession and monstrosity and working retail. And if that doesn't sound like the best thing you've ever heard in your life, I don't know what to tell you other than you're wrong. Next, we have this one that looks really, really good to me. It's called Lupus and Fibula. This is a kind of weird looking short story collection. It says it has some body horror in it, but I don't think all the stories are body horror. And I think there's one about a wolf that comes out of a person, among some other strange things, and I'm obsessed with how stunning this cover is, so I added it to my list. Next we have one called The Home, and it comes out January 15th. This is a extreme horror about a haunted house, and I think we're following 3 characters. I think it's one of them is an elderly lady, and I think the other one might be like a father and son, and they go back to this house that's been like haunting them for ages, and they think there's some kind of like entity in the house, and I don't really know much beyond that. I've never read extreme horror before, but this one intrigued me, and I think there's something about like the creepy house with the like tentacles coming out of the bottom of it that like really does it for me, and I'm really excited. Haven't heard anybody else talk about this one, but I thought it looked really cool. And then next we have BK Boris's new book called Good Spirits. Comes out October 7th. This is a like wintry fantasy, and that's all I really want to know. I want to go in blind. I've never read this author before, but I think this is a new one in like a new romance series, and it also has ghosts in it as well. And I really like ghosty books, so I wanted to read this because it has like the winter, Christmassy vibes, but also ghosts. Kind of a fun pairing. Next we have one called Aunt Tigress. This is a fantasy, and I believe this one has like indigenous mythology and Chinese mythology. That's kind of what it was based on, and I think it's also gay, and it looks really cool. I love this cover with like the white fox and the 2 folks like hanging out in the mouth of like a tiger. Sounds really weird, but looks really good. Next we have The Devourer, and this is a YA fantasy horror that's sapphic. Comes out January 7th, and it's about pirates, and I think they're like going across on a journey over this like winter sea, and from the cover it looks like there's like a monster that lives in the sea. Anyways, it sounds really good. Again, want to go in blind to like most of these because I don't really like looking at synopses too much. Honestly, it spoils the fun. Next we have one, it's called When the Tides Held the Moon, and this one I added because I think it's like a fantasy romance about this guy who, I think he's like a welder, and he gets hired by this like circus to create this big like water tank cage thing. And what he doesn't realize is that they're using it to house a merman as like a new attraction at this circus thing. And he ends up falling in love with this merman. And it's like a really fraught romance because they have to be separated, and they have to be like in secret. And the merman is like trapped in this cage of his lover's own making. Oh my god. It sounds really sad, but I've heard it's really beautiful. And I think a lot of people have that on their list this year, and I thought it sounded really good. I also love monster romance, and I liked that it was gay too, because it sounds really cool. And then the last one I have for you is called Why on Earth. So this is a YA sci-fi anthology, and it sounds like it's all based on an alien invasion. So I think each story is from a different author, but they're all set during the same alien invasion. And I think the alien invasion is like an accident. Like it's a bunch of alien kids who like were driving the spaceship and were like, oops, we're on Earth, bang. Anyways, it sounds good to me, and I haven't heard anybody else talk about it, so I wanted to mention it to you. So those are all of my anticipated releases for 2025. Sorry that had to be fast and furious because there's so many of them, but let me know in the comments what your most anticipated releases are for 2025. And if you made it to the end of this video, leave me a alien or alien spaceship emoji in the comments for Why on Earth. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see some more videos from me, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Bye!